Europe has leverage over Russia. This statement was made by Estonian Foreign Minister Margus Tsahkna while discussing regional security issues. In an interview with the German publication R&D, the diplomat stated that Putin's ambitions go beyond seizing Ukrainian territory. He aims to weaken NATO's influence and dismantle Europe's security architecture. According to the Estonian Foreign Minister, the EU is working to strengthen its position to ensure that Europe has a seat at the table in future negotiations.
If Europe and Ukraine unite and Ukrainians are strong enough to reject a bad deal, then the US will have to align with Europe's position at the negotiating table. This war is already in Europe and we can only end it together. We, as Europeans, have significant means to pressure Russia during negotiations. They want access to 220 billion euros in frozen assets and an end to economic sanctions. Both of these are in our hands, not in the hands of the Americans. Margus Tsahkna, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Estonia, in a comment to the R&D publication.
Following statements by U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine and Russia Kate Kellogg that Washington does not see Europe as part of the negotiations, the EU has intensified its investments in the defense sector and increased aid to Ukraine. On the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion, a Support Ukraine summit was held in Kyiv, where new aid packages were announced. Denmark pledged nearly 270 million euros, Spain 1 billion, Norway 3.5 billion, and the UK more than 5 billion euros. Additionally, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced a 3.5 billion euros contribution from the European Union.
I will present a comprehensive plan on how to scale up our European arms production and defense capabilities, and Ukraine will also benefit. No one wants peace more than the people of Ukraine, but there is only one path to the just and lasting peace they are longing for, and this runs through military and financial strength for Ukraine. That is why we are strengthening your economy. This is why we increase the resilience of your energy supply. This is why we will continue training and equipping your troops. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission.
Additionally, on February 24, the EU adopted its 16th package of sanctions against Russia and Belarus. These restrictions target the aggressor state's shadow fleet, the banking sector, the sale of dual-use goods, and trade activities. Experts emphasize that economic pressure is a crucial tool in exerting leverage over Moscow.
The European Union has significant economic influence. Before the full-scale war, trade volume was quite substantial. Moreover, the EU plays a key role in the global financial system. The measures already implemented have sharply reduced trade between EU countries and Russia. It is not a complete halt, but it is a significant reduction. The latest sanctions package is aimed at further diminishing these economic ties.
In the near future, Europe has scheduled several additional defense and Ukraine support initiatives. On March 2nd, regional leaders will meet in London for a security summit, with another event planned for March 6. European Council President Antonio Costa has already sent invitations to various European leaders, including Volodymyr Zelensky. According to organizers, the key topic of discussion will be the security guarantees for Ukraine. Experts believe the EU is prepared to take further steps to finance both its own security and continued support for Kyiv.
One is obviously a renewed debt. The historical example that's always given is the emergency credit that the European Union took to fight the economic consequences of the pandemic a couple of years ago. 5 years ago, to be exact. And the other track which the European Union is considering is, confiscating the frozen Russian assets, which are more than 200 billion euros and are held in the European Union, most of them actually in Belgium.
On March 19th, European Commissioner for Defense Andrius Kubilius and EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs Kaja Kallas are set to present a new EU defense industry strategy, according to Bloomberg sources. The strategy will consist of three main components, including reforms to the EU's fiscal rules to free up funding for the defense budget and increase contributions within NATO. Reported by Katerina Bastun, Andriy Dmitrenko, UATV News. The Kremlin understands that the war against Ukraine is also devastating for Russia, but the Russian army still has the potential to advance further. This is the assessment of Kirill BUDANOV, chief of the Main Directorate of Intelligence of Ukraine. According to him, the full-scale invasion of Ukraine is costing the aggressor country an enormous amount. Russia spends approximately $1 billion per day on the war.
Це взагалі дуже дорога війна.
This is an extremely expensive war. A single day of war costs them just under $1 billion, an enormous sum. As for human resources, we must not deceive ourselves. Russia's mobilization potential, according to calculations, allows them to continue advancing. However, the pace and the number of casualties are factors they cannot ignore, and they do take them into account.
The head of Ukrainian intelligence also reminded that, according to official data, Russia's defense budget accounts for 41% of the country's main expenditure.
Це ненормальні цифри.
These are abnormal figures. To accommodate this budget, nearly all social programs, including healthcare and education, have been cut. The negative financial and economic impact on the Russian Federation is already noticeable. However, as long as they have oil, gas, metals, and precious stones, they will try to balance the situation.
Pouring most of the budget into the military-industrial complex has already given results. The truth is disappointing. Inflation of 10%, an interest rate of 21%, rising food prices, and falling incomes of citizens. One of Russia's largest dairy producers has already announced it will raise its wholesale prices by up to 15% in March. Prices are not the only thing rising, so is overdue mortgage debt. Russia's total overdue mortgage debt has reached nearly 100 billion rubles. Meanwhile, the total volume of mortgage loans has grown by 7% over the past year, reaching over 19 trillion rubles by early January, according to the central bank.
In 2023, the total mortgage portfolio in Russia increased by 4.2 trillion rubles, compared to 2.1 trillion in 2022. Until July 2024, Russia had a widespread preferential mortgage program for new buildings at an 8% interest rate. The opportunity to buy real estate at minimal rates encouraged many to take out mortgages without fully assessing their financial capabilities. Evgeny Shavnev, CEO of the real estate investment company Flip LLC, cited by the Moscow Times.
Russia's industrial production growth has also slowed, according to the Ministry of Economic Development. In January 2025, industrial output increased by just 2%, half of the average growth rate from the previous year. While the defense sector is ramping up production, civilian industries are struggling. Furniture production fell by 2.4% in January, clothing and footwear output fell by almost 3.5%, and food processing slowed by 2%. At the same time, the central bank continues to report that Russia's GDP grew by more than 4% last year.
Although GDP growth formally remains high, real productive activity in the economy has almost ceased to expand. Almost all of the recorded growth comes from the defense sector. Without it, production levels remain at 2021 levels. Civilian industries have been stagnating since mid-2023, and in the second half of last year, even with the defense boom, the entire industrial sector entered stagnation. From the report of the Center for Macroeconomic Analysis and Short-Term Forecasting.
Nearly a third of Russia's logistic companies are on the verge of bankruptcy. Experts warn that if the government does not provide support, at least 30% of market participants will go bankrupt in 2025. This would lead to a shortage of transportation equipment, a 25% increase in shipping rates, and a rise in consumer prices. According to the IMP, Russia's economic growth is expected to slow nearly threefold from its current level to just 1.5% in 2025. Reported by Katerina Bastun, Yulia Granovska, UATV News.